A group of 19 filmmakers from 13 African countries have been selected to take part in a prestigious program at this year's Durban International Film Festival. Talents Durban takes place over 5 days and is made up of workshops, masterclasses and seminars. About 250 people had vied to take part. This morning, we're chatting with one of the participants, Mlingane Dube. His film Isidima has also been selected to screen at the festival. We'll take a look at the trailer for that a bit later on. But first, welcome and congratulations. Tell us a little bit about this process, Mlingane. How did you get into the Durban Talents?
Thank you, Unati. You write in whatever idea you have, whether for a short film, a feature film, or a TV series. And I had an idea for a TV series, which I wrote together, a bio of yourself, and just it needs to be very detailed. And you send it to Durban Talents with, along with filmmakers from across the continent, and cross your fingers, and fortunately for me, I was selected. So 19 have been selected. You part of that 19 from 250. That's a big feat. I mean, how long have you been in the industry? You don't look over 30. I am not. I've always, over the past 4 or 5 years have made little short films with friends or as just a weekender projects, just to practice the craft and the skill at writing and directing and filming and, well, visually storytelling. And this is maybe the first big opportunity that's to take it pro, if you so to speak.
All right. Now, you know, post-apartheid South Africa has really started showing a lot of different styles of writing, and it's given us a lot of content. Where do you skew in that? Are you more political, or where's your genre?
I would call myself a social commentary, and I like to write stories that of people we see around us and the situations that we find ourselves in as different types of people, whether black males and youth in townships and suburbs, just the things that we deal with in society, and that's what I really like to speak about in my stories. All right, now your film Isidima will be showcased at DIFF, the Durban International Film Festival, this month. What's it about? Isidima is a film it's based on a true story of a woman who caught her daughter's rapist in the act, and while defending her daughter, killed this man and then faced murder charges. So I firstly heard this story on news and media and thought this was really intriguing and interesting. So I wrote a story around this and named it Isidima. Isidima being a Xhosa word for dignity, and basically the film saying what a rapist is trying to steal from this woman is her dignity, and how do we protect that? All right, now I want to go back and, you know, go deeper into your story in terms of, you know, the technicalities, yes, as well as, you know, the creative thinking behind it. Yes. But first, let's take a look at some of a little trailer on your film.
Njengomuntu wesifazane ubhekele ekhaya nokukhulisa nje kwabantwana kuphela. Sofunela ukuthi wazi ukuthi ubani indoda leyo. Yes.
All right, now tell us about this film. I mean, it looks intense. The creative process, what goes into it from a technical perspective, you know, from conceptualizing it to, you know, to scripting it. I know that you got, you know, some of the ideas from actually what is happening in life, and I remember that story very, very well, and I think it gripped a lot of South Africans. It was a horrific incident that happened in the Eastern Cape. Now, tell us about the casting process, as well as the location. You know, how do you go about choosing that?
Yes. So this film in particular was part of a program called the NAVF Youth Filmmaker Project, where, again, from across the country, they looked at a bunch of stories which they'd like to involve, and mine was picked in one of the 10. And we were given then a writing mentor, who's Teho Menaisa, who writes for popular TV dramas, and she mentored myself and other 9 filmmakers with our individual stories, or what to write and or how to structure it, and just training us as writers. And then we're then mentored in the directing phase by Adze Uga, who's the supervising director at shows like Isibaya and Sitembiso. And that's how we were trained to do this. And we, in terms of looking for locations, the best place to shoot, KZN Film Commission invited us to the province to tell our stories there. And I found a location that I felt suited the world of the story, where it was low income, where people are dealing with many other issues apart from the violence that women face, like poverty and just affording a basic life, and and that's what we did. And I was lucky enough to cast my lead character, Andrea Dondolo, who's an experienced actress, but she did this project for just as a passion project because of the story was just so close to her heart. So I'm very lucky to get that sort of talent in the lead role to just help to make the story a lot more powerful than it could have been, yeah.
Now, we know this doesn't come cheap. There are a lot of cost implications involved. Yes. So how did you go around the funding? Is that also part and parcel of the incubation process, so to speak?
Yes, sure. NVF did supply funding for each film. It is roughly 200 to 250,000 per film, which if you're talking film, that is actually very low budget. But we did what we could, especially having to get everybody to Durban, the crew, finding locations, having good actresses, and just time to prepare and make sure that affording to make a film, we're not compromising the story and the power that it holds. So it was a tricky process, but NVF held our hand and helped us through it.
Now, what happens to the film now? I mean, do South Africans get to see it? Do you get to get some commercial benefit out of that?
So at the moment, there isn't quite a lot of commercial benefit for us, the filmmakers. What the program's goal was to help us establish ourselves as names of filmmakers and maybe be trusted in future investors to see that you have a track record or you made a film that's had an impact, and they could possibly fund you to make more films or tell more stories that you want to do. And specifically what will happen with the Isidima now is people can flock to Durban, fill the various venues where films will be shown, and mine will be one of them. And I'll also be entering into 2 other festivals in the country and abroad, so more people can see it, experience it, and hopefully it builds my brand of storytelling and help me further myself in this career.
Now let's make time to talk about those festivals, those platforms, for young writers like yourselves, film producers and directors. Now, the Durban International Film Festival has been running for now the 39th year, I believe. Yes. So it has been a long time. What are the benefits of those festivals? And I mean, are you starting to see the dividends?
Festivals are basically probably filmmakers' best opportunity, because it's where once a year a lot of film lovers and watchers and makers meet at one venue and will watch a lot of films that probably wouldn't have gotten an opportunity to screen anywhere else. It's really difficult to get your work on TV with the schedules that they have and restrictions, whether technically or what they can show in terms of the content. So a festival is your best bet, where it's not too restrictive, and it's an awesome opportunity for young filmmakers to show their work. And one as big as the Durban Film Festival is one of the oldest in Africa, second oldest if I'm not mistaken. It's a huge opportunity, one that I'm trying to take full advantage of.
Now, where do most of the buyers come from? Is it fully South African grown, or a lot in the continent, as in African continent, or do we see mostly of your European market coming in? And I mean, what happens? What goes on there? Do they watch films? I like this one, I want to buy it, I want to produce it, I want to take it back to Belgium or Ireland, or how does it work? How does the whole process work?
So a lot of the time when people screening their films at festivals, what they are mainly trying to achieve is just a buzzword for the film and themselves, so that when it does go for commercial buyings, that it's already got some word and some nice quotes behind it, riveting in inverted commas on the poster. It goes a long way for the film and the filmmaker and what it can do. But at festivals as well, as people go there with to meet with other buyers with new ideas. And what the buyer would say is, I like what you've done here, what else are you working on? And that's where we exchange money and ideas. And that's what I'm hoping to do at Durban as well. We have a film mart where we discuss, okay, what else are you working on? And I'll express my ideas and make more partnerships there.
Now, we know that a lot of the storytelling starts from television, you know, TV dramas, etc. Why the jump from, you know, from just writing stories and from TV straight into film? Why not start at TV roots for you specifically?
It's actually the most difficult to get into. So if you start this way, it's it's more affordable for myself. So I'm doing it film, I can sit at home and write a story. It doesn't cost you anything, and maybe partner up with some friends to get some gear, somebody experienced, and then we make a film ourselves. And that also doesn't cost as much as trying to get on TV. And and then once you've built that name, now you have something to approach broadcasters with, some sort of track record. So it's been the natural path of what can I afford to do with the resources I have available to me.
Now that you've done Isidima, what are your hopes? Are you going to obviously promote it locally, but any international aspirations?
Yes, of course. I'm going to enter to any festival I can find. And the more buzz and talk there is around it, the better for the future stories and ideas that I have. Like I mentioned earlier, that I have a TV series idea that I submitted to Durban Talents, and they've taken me on to work and develop that idea. And that's what I'm hoping will happen with that TV series idea, that it will be possibly even marketed as from the creator of Isidima. So it is assisting one another in that way. Yeah.
Now you're a young South African who's obviously clearly starting to make, you know, a name for himself in the film industry. There are young people watching you today and thinking, where can I start? What should I do? What's your advice to them?
My advice would be you need to start doing the things that you see yourself as. If you see yourself as a writer one day, you need to start writing now. Write even though you don't think that script will be produced, but you need to get yourself into the habit of doing the things that you see yourself as. And that's where it starts. Just do the things that you can and write your ideas. Find a network. I always use this phrase, like, let's stop trying to achieve goals or hustle in isolation. Network and meet with other people with similar aspirations. Create a group or that you have a common goal, and that's where I think you should start.
All right, so obviously the narrative has changed a lot for young people today, including yourself. Yes. Do you see that there's a lack of leadership currently? Where do you draw your inspiration from?
Well, I draw my inspiration from a lot of things. So just stories that I hear in the media from people around me, just lives and ideas that I think are quite compelling and just need to be discussed. Right, like the idea with Isidima, for example, the idea that rape steals more than the physical. It steals an intangible thing, it's dignity, and how do we protect that, and how do you define what a person who's been raped has lost? You know, how do you explain that? And that is just one of the ideas that I found interesting. I wanted to write around that, and similar to it, there are many other ideas that you just stumble across, or maybe even try to look for, like maybe a leadership in a nation's leadership, and maybe there are some deeper ideas that you could delve into there and dissect and look at better and possibly write a story around. That's a possibility. We live in a country where we are lucky enough to have a very colorful nation, very diverse and different backgrounds, which means there are so many stories to be told.
All right, I'm going to leave it here, but before I do, I mean, your story is about rape. Who do you think is best placed to tell stories on certain social ills in the country? I mean, was there a lot of sensitivity taken behind your research?
Yes. I was at first, while writing this film, wasn't sure if I'm the best person as a male to tell the story of how a female might feel. But I was made comfortable with the cast I worked with. I basically have 3 females in the lead of different age groups, and like a teenager and a lady in her 20s, and our lead character who was just turned 40 this year. So we had a lot of discussions with them, and they were really open with me and helping feel comfortable that if you are open and willing to learn and understand and just have empathy, you'll be able to tell the story that you want to tell, and the best placed person to tell any story is the one that's willing.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, and good luck to you. We wish you all the best. All right, that was filmmaker Mlingane Dube speaking to us.